Okay, she's there.
Are we? Carolina, everything good? Okay. Okay. I'm going to call to order the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal informal session for July 28th, 2022. It is 10:02 in the morning. And Commissioner Starrett, would you please lead us in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So calendaring session, is there anything we need to add to the joint calendar?
Just this weekend's events and parades and
Mhm.
festivals.
Oh, yeah.
Dayton Parade is tomorrow night. Newburgh Parade is Saturday morning. And then we have the fair next week. I don't know if we
Mhm.
typically
Mhm,
notice that,
Yeah.
we
but
do.
we'll potentially have commissioners there together. So
Potentially all the time in that
we'll
space.
get to that later in announcements. Okay, let's see. I'll double check something real quick here. On the third SEDCOR Board of Directors, I'm assuming I'm the only one going. Yes.
I'm not
Okay.
going to.
Okay.
Or I mean, I should say I'm not on the board.
Well, it's a tour of a ballistic company in Salem. So I don't know, they
Oh.
kind of spread out the invitation. a little
Yeah,
bit,
I
so.
don't know if I saw it, but can you forward the invitation to me? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So I can send that one to Carolina,
Okay,
just in
thank you.
case. Okay, looks like that's it. Item D is public comment. This time period is reserved for public comment on any topic other than an agenda item, a quasi judicial land use matter, or a topic scheduled for a public hearing. I don't believe we received any, excuse me, any written public testimony for this week, but is there anyone in the audience who has public testimony or online? Please raise your virtual hand. And this is on any item other than something on the agenda. Okay, hearing none. We will move on to item E, which is department updates. We have no updates today. Item F, work session. There are no work sessions. Item G, consent agenda. I'll call for a motion to approve the consent agenda, and then I just want to have a quick comment on one of the items. Do I have a
Commissioner-
motion to approve
Chair, can we just remove item number 1G1 just for
for
discussion
discussion?
and
Okay.
then vote on that separately?
Sure. Okay, so I will move to approve items 2 and 3 on the consent agenda. Is there
Sounds good.
discussion on those items?
No chair.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. And that brings us to item 1, which is approval of amendment number 4 to an agreement between Yamhill County and Homeward Bound Pets Humane Society for dog processing and kenneling services, extending the terms and increasing the cost of the agreement to $88,695, retroactive to July 1st, 2022 through June 30th of 2023. And we are joined online by Homeward Bound Pets Director Ronnie Vostnak,
And
In
a shelter
case-
manager.
and shelter manager. But just briefly, this has been a contract that the sheriff has been working with Ronnie on to kind of revamp and stabilize the needs that the county has with the needs that Homeward Bound Pets has. So it's been, months of discussions, and they came to an agreement over this amendment in particular. It doesn't necessarily solve the county's issues
Mhm.
totally going forward. We still have some some things to look at, but for the time being, at least this stabilizes the contract for a year. So are there any questions for Ronnie now that we have her on?
Chair, I have a question for Ronnie, a
Sure.
couple of questions, just for clarification and for information. And Amanda is there, also the shelter manager. But Ronnie, thank you for joining us, Executive Director of Homeward Bound Pets. This has been a really difficult couple of years for your agency, and we appreciate the fact that you have really struggled with overwhelming number of animals, and a lot of them dogs that could not be rehomed. So thank you for that. We acknowledge that. Can you just sort of give us the lay of the land in terms of what this contract extension, this amendment allows, what it will alleviate, and what we need going forward?
Absolutely. Can you guys hear me? All right. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
So your audio, we can't hear your audio. We can see you.
It's not on mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you for Sheriff Svensson and Amanda and I have spent a lot of hours talking. Amanda has pulled lots of numbers and we've spent many, many hours over this. We are so honored to help our community. We really are. We don't want to change what we do. We want to help Yamhill County. With that said, the number of dogs that have come in has overwhelmed the shelter. And so it has ended up costing Homeward Bound a lot of money in the interim. So we had to go back to the drawing board and figure out what that looks like for us to continue. And so that is the number that we came up with to the sheriff, who has sent that to you guys. I also talked to Sheriff Svensson this morning, because originally he wanted 5 kennels and we just didn't have them because of the number of dogs that are coming in from the county, which are dogs that are tossed, abandoned, very hard to adopt out. We've reached out, Amanda has reached out to over 60 rescues in the state of Oregon trying to get help. They're full. And so, or they don't want the kind of dogs that we have. So that's made it tough, but we refuse to stop helping. We do have, I told Sheriff Svensson this morning, we do have 4 kennels available as of right now. And as of Tuesday, Amanda told me we could have the 5. And so he was scrambling this morning. He's reaching out to his deputies to see if we would need to go to that for them. So he was going to get back to us on that, but we do have the 3 right now, or we actually could go to 4 as of today. It's just what you guys decide, but the original contract was for 5.
Right. So we haven't heard from the sheriff, at least I didn't hear from the sheriff, if he wanted to postpone or maybe amend the amendment. Is that?
Well, we just spoke this morning and he said that you guys have the amendment where if it was passed, I believe he said, if he needed it, he could go to the 5. I don't know what you guys have there, but what this allows Homeward Bound is we took in the food, supplies for cleaning, staffing, my time, the kennels. We had to look at all of that for us to be able to continue. So the number you're seeing at is encompassing everything. But I don't know what you want to do. The sheriff was going to get back to me. You originally had the contract for 5.
Right. This one specifically says 3.
This is 3.
Right, because we ended up, after I signed the one for 5, I'm like, we just didn't have them. And so we have adopted out a couple dogs. And so we have them, but that's if they don't get filled. I hate to put pressure, but if we have dogs come in from the city, then they could fill up. And so this is all new information that I reached out to the sheriff this morning with.
And Ronnie, this is you're talking about 5 dedicated kennels to county dogs.
Yes.
So we pay for them regardless.
Yes, yes.
Well, my guess is that would change the amount of the contract significantly.
Yeah.
So perhaps this is, I hate to delay it further, but perhaps this is something that we need to check in with the sheriff about and make sure
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he wants to do.
Yeah, what I told him this morning is, as of today, like I said, we have 4 that we could dedicate, but it could change. It could change later today. I mean, that's how fluid this is. And as of Tuesday, when we have a dog leaving, we would have then 5. So he said that you guys, he thought you had the original contract that I had signed. And then I don't know if you have everything there.
I just want to clarify that when we say things like, or when I hear things like, we have 4 dedicated, or we have 5 dedicated, but we just don't have space, that's different to me than actually having them dedicated. Do you know what I mean? Like if we have 3 or we have 4, we have 5 spaces that are dedicated, that means that they're just for Yamhill County specific animals. I mean, that's
Yes.
how.
Yeah.
Right. And when I talked to the sheriff, the county does average most of the time, at least those 5 kennels.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
we're using
Because
that.
what happens is you guys, Amanda, you can talk, but it's constantly an overflow for the county.
So Ronnie, the new shelter, can you talk a little bit about because we were making sure that you had some capital infusion of capital funds for that going forward, but in terms of increased capacity, can you comment on that? How we can, get that built in before it's too late?
Yeah, so I couldn't hear you. I just turned up my speaker. So the new shelter, instead of 17 kennels, we'll have 20 on our land. That is all we are allowed to build. That's the city. That's all we can put in there. So we will have 20 total kennels.
Can I ask a question?
We only had 14, and because of the emergency that we were in over the last couple of years, we had a couple of exterior kennels that we used for storage that I had an electrician come in and add heat. We added sides so it would retain the heat and for our own dogs so that we would have 3 extra. And it ended up where we had to use them for county dogs as well because we just were buried in dogs. And so I spent money to have, that's why we have 17 now.
So the dogs that are difficult because of socialization or medical issues, is there a sanctuary option for those that don't look like they'd be adoptable?
No, that's the problem. We are working now as of last week with a dog trainer who's taking one of our dogs at a time to work with it to make it more adoptable. So we're super excited about that. And hopefully that will help us start moving some of these dogs that we have that Homeward Bound has so that it opens up more kennels for us to bring dogs in to get ready for adoption. So that's exciting for us. He took one dog that we've had for a year and he's working and having great success with him right now. And so we are literally doing everything we can. Amanda is working her heart out, calling, reaching out to shelters. They want the little cute, I get along with everybody dogs. And so that leaves us with dogs that don't necessarily get along with everyone, or we notice maybe they don't get along their best as a single dog in a single, home without kids. And this is where our trainers coming in is to really help us start working one dog at a time to move it out of the shelter so that we open up kennel space for the next ones.
Thank you.
Great. Well, I'm looking at the amendment and it very specifically says 3 contracted kennels and sheriff's office will not utilize overflow kennels during the course of the year. So if there's now an option and that's a preferred option of the sheriff, then I think we should hold off on this and
Okay. Yeah, the original contract was for 5 with no overflow, but again, because we just did not have them available. But we would have to move fairly quick on this if the sheriff decides that he wants these, because this is, like I said, it's fluid. It just is happening right now. And that's why I called him or texted him this morning.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I will check in with him and make sure. Ken, did you have
Well, just one thought, because I'm trying to think of the term when the current agreement expired. The one thought would be is you could take action on this and if additional beds or kennels that are made available, that could always come forward as an amendment. As a secondary amendment. So you could execute and you could consider the current agreement as proposed and then just come back with a simple amendment to add the additional kennel spaces or the terms around that. Because whether they're defined as dedicated or overflow or, you know, some of the, with the questions around how the 2 additional kennel spaces would work, that would give time for the sheriff to work with Ronnie to work on that amendment, and then that would come back as a secondary amendment.
Okay. Yeah, so the current contract expired July 1, looks like. So we've been off almost a month with that one, so. Okay, commissioners, how do you feel about approving this then? Then we can always amend.
I think that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, and Amanda, for coming on and answering questions. We appreciate the work that you do. I noticed you had 5 German Shepherd puppies, and it was killing me. I had to put my phone down.
The shelter actually had 6.
Oh my gosh.
And they were brought in, they were abandoned along with the mom. The puppies were 3 days old at the time, along with 2 males. And Amanda said, we got to take them on. We were scrambling to be able to care for them and took them on. And they all, Amanda, correct? They all got homes now? I think they're gone.
Oh,
They were so adorable.
I would have taken all of them, but I have a husband who.
Well, the mom is getting spayed and she's awful sweet.
Aw,
They'll be available.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh,
The sheriff said that his daughter was texting him pictures of the
Oh,
German
gosh.
Shepherds.
they were so beautiful.
Like, I'll take one if you take one. Okay, so getting back to the motion, do I have a motion to approve item G1?
So moved.
Okay, oh,
It is.
it's
that's
I1
right.
because I pulled it
Okay.
off. Okay. Okay, Well, we
could-
skipped old
could
business,
read
but
it,
we
I
have
guess.
none.
Yeah.
so do I have a motion to approve item I1, which is approval of amendment number 4 to an agreement between Yamhill County and Homeward Bound Pets Humane Society for dog processing and kenneling services, extending the terms and increasing the cost of the agreement to $88,695, retroactive to July 1, 2022 through June 30th of 2023.
Chair, I move approval.
Commissioner Starrett moves approval. Is there further discussion?
No chance.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Okay. So that makes item I2, consideration of approval to accept a quote and purchase from U.S. Survey Supplies for electronic surveying equipment in the amount of $47,794.50. And this is to update outdated surveying equipment. Do I have a motion to approve?
Chair, I move that we approve item I2. Oh, sorry, item yes, it
I2,
would be
yep.
I2 at this point. You described it, so we're good.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I was just gonna quickly, just a reminder that during the budgetary process, this was approved that we're gonna be using, I believe it was ONC funds to cover the costs with the purchase of this equipment for the surveyor's office.
Great. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of approving item I2 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Item I3, consideration of approval to declare buses number 102, 102S, 116V, and 201 as surplus and authorize staff to dispose of via auction per county policy. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Commissioner Stewart moves approval. Is there discussion on this item?
No.
Nope.
Thank you for
Okay.
continuing to move it forward.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Item I4 is consideration of approval in the matter of an order vacating a portion of a public road at the request of June K. Wolf and Eric A. Wolf Without a public hearing, Public Works docket number RV-4-2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
Chair, I move that we approve item I3.
Okay, Commissioner Kula moves approval.
I4, yes.
I4.
There you go. It's confusing because I thought it should have been I4, the other one. And I haven't changed my mind yet. Chair, I move that we approve item I4.
Okay. And as you recall, this is something we talked about last year, vacating the right of way that was, I think, supposed to be original Peavine Road, but it's now not Peavine Road. So
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
No, Chair, but I would say just thanks to the Public Works staff for continuing to do these, like a lot of housekeeping details to really modernize our systems, working with Jason. So
And
Absolutely.
Colton.
yes. Oh my gosh, right.
Okay. All those in favor of approving item I4 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. And public hearings, we have no public hearings today. That brings us to announcements. And Commissioner Starrett, it sounds like you have quite a few. So let's start with your announcements.
And I'll try to be brief. So just to give you an update, there's been an awful lot of discussion, a lot of misinformation out there about the air conditioner situation that's going on. Bottom line is Housing Authority has contracts with HUD. And in order to be compliant with that, there have to be certain inspections. OHCS did an inspection and at Hayworth found that the window units in some of the apartments were in violation because it was only one point of egress. So they were given notices in May that they had to replace those with in-room air conditioners. So a lot of information went out about people being evicted in the heat, and that's not true. So a lot of folks marshaled together to get this addressed, and Northwest Seniors and Disability Services, and specifically Tanya and Charlene Gibb, went out, knocked on doors, got an assessment, delivered 10 units yesterday. There were people, 9 units that were implicated in this inspection. So those were delivered. Lots of folks have stepped up to offer to donate some. And then there's the Senate Bill 1536, which allocated $5 million for air conditioners specifically. But the CCO has flexible funds, and if people are eligible, they can apply. So between the Housing Authority, who's, I have to say, Vicky's done a wonderful job, Yanira, all those folks have done a great job. They literally addressed this that day. So I can't say enough about what this community does in those organizations. So between that Housing Authority, CCO, and other forces cobbling together, the other units in Housing Authority units will be addressed. So everybody's going to be covered.
When you say the 10 units, is that a standalone, like on the floor unit that they were delivering?
That will
versus
be
a-
offered to them.
Okay.
Some folks have declined because they don't like them in their inside, but
Okay.
it's really a good option, especially when they'd be out of compliance with HUD and they wouldn't get paid. So that's a big deal.
Right.
So they've been very proactive, gave them lots of notice, and no one is going to be evicted or tossed out.
Good to
And
hear.
I realized I met with Director Weibargen yesterday with Senator Wyden's staff, because their housing expert really wanted to find out, is there something that we need to adjust about how HUD interprets the rules? And it sounds like there may be some things that they'll start working on for one of the housing bills going forward about what egress looks like and how to address things, right, when that comes up. The question I forgot to ask, but it sounds like maybe it's being worked on, is that for some of the people who right away move their air conditioners out of their windows, so they're not the part of the 9, whether they're going to have access to cooling units too, because I remember that Director Weibargen saying that she basically said, there's a heat wave, you can put your air conditioner back in
Yes.
for those folks.
Yes.
So hopefully there's that connection is made.
Yes, and they also are making arrangements for those in the other Housing Authority units to be covered
Proactive.
with these
Perfect.
units. And the other thing is, if you look at the wording in 1536, it says regardless of what the tenant landlord requirements are. So I wonder if that would include HUD, but all of this is being done, but I have to say they've done a wonderful job.
And just yesterday, an article came out that there were like 1,200 air conditioner units in storage because nonprofits were the ones who were supposed to get them out and didn't have the staff for it.
Right. So
I wonder if that's a way for.
well, I have to say that in our situation, our folks, especially through Northwest Seniors, got their hands on the units and they were like
great.
deployed
Yeah.
yesterday morning.
Thank you for staying on top of it. I really
So
appreciate it.
we've got great cooperation in the county. Other thing I want to report on is Newburgh Urban Area Management Commission, and our planning director Ken Friday brought some information. There are 20 roads that that are within the city limits of Newburgh. City has not taken ownership and maintenance of, so the bylaws are being addressed to encourage them to assume ownership and maintenance, but they want it brought up to city standards, and that will be another discussion for another day. The other thing is with YCAP, what's going on there is unfortunately the situation at Dustin Court is now back into a critical situation with lots of criminality. The folks who are camping there are cutting the fuel lines to the food bank trucks, taking their water, using the bathrooms, graffiti, crime. There's even a child out there. Lots of garbage, lots of rats, and it's costing between $12,000 and $20,000 for security. So this is not just single folks who are camping there. There's this high level of drug use and criminality and very aggressive situation. So unfortunately, that is ongoing. I do want to say that in terms of what YCAP is doing, staff has been going out as they do with their contract for youth services, and they're making contacts with kids on the street. Their drop-in center, they've got 94 youth coming in there. And we did get the keys to YCAP from the county for the YOMAC facility, and that they're going to be looking at what is needed for renovations. And the other thing is I did recommend and nominate former sheriff, under sheriff, and Captain Ken Summers to be on the Newburgh Urban Area Management Commission. He was unanimously approved by the commission, and he will that will be coming to the board for approval.
Thank you. So on my list, I just had kind of a follow-up to the air conditioning conversation. Obviously, the governor has declared a state of emergency through the 31st, I believe, Sunday. So we have a service, we're aware of it, maybe some others aren't, but if you call 211 on your phone, you will be directed to a list of cooling shelters. And we have quite a few in the county.
Yep.
And we've been sharing that, Sergeant Young has been sharing that out through Facebook and other means. Dayton Fair is obviously tomorrow night. Newburgh Old Fashioned Festival Parade is Saturday morning. So the county fair starts on the 3rd. So that's Wednesday through Saturday. And we are in desperate need of volunteers. The fair is not immune from the challenges with volunteers that we've been experiencing. And so they've kind of put a call out for all hands on deck. You get free admission to the fair if you volunteer. I plan to be out there most days of the fair, but volunteer shifts are things like, ticketing and collecting money as people come in, checking the restrooms, litter patrol, stuff like that. So if you're going to spend a few hours there, it's not that hard to check for litter or check the bathrooms every hour. So pretty easy stuff. And then Lacey sent me a couple of QR codes there, graphics that they made, but one of them is for the ticketing volunteer, which you may want to have discretion on who we send that to. And then the other one is for the other
Specific individuals.
the other stuff. Well, they're handling money. So anybody over 16, I think is what they put that at.
Great, thank you.
And then, so there's a band every night. The first night, Wednesday, is Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and then Jody Messina, Shenandoah, and then Night Ranger, not Rider, Ranger.
I keep forgetting.
So, and then for commissioners, you know, I think they would love to have us there for our fair ambassadors. And so I was asking the schedule and they said that they are introduced every night in the grand entry before the rodeo. So if you want to be there one of the nights for that or with them, it's typically around 6 p.m. That they would be introduced before the rodeo. And I think that was all. It's going to be a big fair. The ticket sales are through the roof. So they're
And
really
it's
excited about it.
not going to be as hot.
It's not going to
I'm
be as
pretty
hot.
sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank goodness. Those poor
Mhm.
animals. Okay. And then, so the only other thing I have is an update on High Heaven Gate.
Mhm.
We obviously received just recently a formal request from Weyerhaeuser to shut the gate or lock the gate. So I'm curious as to what the thoughts are in terms of, you know, public hearing, no public hearing, because there was one fairly recently in 2019.
Mhm.
But I do think that there's another voice in this that hasn't been heard, which is the public who uses this area.
Mhm.
So I'm open to whatever. Do we want to maybe just start with putting it on the agenda and go from there?
I want to reach back out to Scott Marlega from Weyerhaeuser to really clarify, because all of our communications, his with me, have been just about closures during fire season. So seeing a specific, like, just close it all again is actually kind of contrary. Well, it's contrary to what I talked about with him. And I'm just curious about that, because I would say that with the formal request that's before us, which just says close it, that was their position, you know, when we brought it up,
Mhm.
right? When the issue was raised in 2019 or
Mhm.
2018, I guess, or late 2018. So from my perspective, you know, great, your position hasn't changed. I don't know why we would raise it and open it up the board order again. But with what I thought was a request to consider during fire season, I'd like to reach back out to Scott and be like, so what is the thing you actually want here?
Okay.
Well, yeah, again, and to that point, what is different
Yeah.
about this particular action?
Right.
I'm not sure, and I don't know what we're going to do. Would it undo what we've done in the past, and what is the purpose of it? But I
Yeah.
don't know what is different about this action.
Yeah,
Now.
that's what I was wondering. So from my
Mhm.
perspective, I would say rather than bringing it up for discussion and opening it up again, because I know that there are some neighbors who just want it closed. There's some neighbors who'd like it open for their own benefit.
Mhm.
And, you know, then there's a lot of people in the public who as we know, sometimes it's really easy to hear from them. And sometimes it's really hard.
Mhm.
There's landowners along the way
Yeah.
that I would prefer, rather than bringing it up for discussion, to check in with Scott, find out like what specifically do you want, and are there things that you would like to see change that aren't closure of your gate over a county road,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
Because
absolutely.
some of the things that I saw in the email that Ken so kindly forwarded on, which I think was a reply to you, or things that it's unlikely that there's any relationship to a gate being closed
Mhm.
or
Okay.
open.
Mhm. Okay. Right.
Okay.
And mostly
so-
that's because I know the area pretty well. That's fine.
So I think to avoid some type of serial communication with
Yeah.
them, we'll have you communicate with Scott.
That sounds great.
And then maybe just a follow-up next week. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll also, I might do an introduction to Director Lago
Okay.
with Scott too, so that they can communicate. Because some of the stuff was that I saw was, hey, private parties are paying for the road maintenance. I'm like, we set aside money for that purpose, so
Mhm.
that you don't have to. Because I remember that was actually Weyerhaeuser. They came in right as we were finalizing the board order and said, hey, we don't want to be maintaining a road that is the public's.
Right.
And the decision at that point was like, hey, we're paying for it. So
Right.
and I think that's a really important thing too, right? Is to acknowledge that the records has shown that we were paying for it
Mhm.
and maintaining it up to gate closure, and that we have the responsibility to do that again.
And was that 40?
It was 40,000 every 2 years.
40
It
every
was-
2 years, so
yeah, because that's
20,000 a
what
year, okay.
Bill Gilly had at the time estimated would take to grade
Okay.
the road and rock the road and brush it.
Okay.
And the brushing is an important component of it, obviously, with access and clearance and site issues, but also for fire.
Fire.
danger.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Okay, great. That's a good idea.
Okay. Sounds good. I think that was all on my list. Commissioner Fuller, did you have?
Yeah, so met with the Broadband Consortium. I'd learned the
Mm-hmm.
name of it. It's not just Shemeketa bringing people together, so that's good. Commissioner Pope was there as well,
Mm-hmm.
and all the IT professionals from the school districts and county and city staff from Marion County cities. We're putting together, and then I will get to you as soon as I have the finalized survey. But the request is that every jurisdiction send a survey out that we've all. It's a standardized survey, so everybody in Marion, Polk, and Yamhill County then ideally would have the same simple survey to find out exactly where gaps in internet are, both really crappy but also expensive, and then also the people who just don't have any access, with the ultimate goal of leveraging that data into getting more of the broadband dollars that the state has. So this would obviously then be on top of our own work, and that goes for all the other jurisdictions too. They're all working on their own broadband issues or better internet issues. But the thought is that once we have a collected, like, here's where the gaps are that we actually know because somebody has responded to us, then we have a much more compelling case for additional dollars. And I know it feels silly right now when we haven't spent out, but it's the next step, right?
And wasn't there, I don't know if it was a state or federal, basically they were sending out a link to be able to test your
Yes,
upload
I
and,
think it's called Faster Internet Oregon.
right.
Yes, so that's actually going to be part of the survey is the link. So, the basic find out this information that we want for an application for funding, but then also use this if you want to send that information in.
Right, and they've got that data.
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly. And then the hope is that the state will share that data with the counties and school districts when we put together a proposal.
that would be helpful, because it's a really quick test
Yeah,
to test
yeah,
upload and download.
Yeah,
speed.
exactly. I did it too. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So each county is doing their own sort of research. Obviously, we've just approved a contract that's pretty large. I'm assuming that data is going to be much more granular than maybe whatever data is being compiled through
Mhm.
this group. But are we kind of on the same timeline as Marion and Polk County in terms of our process? Are we behind?
We're all on different timelines. Like
Okay.
Commissioner Pope mentioned, he has projects that are just ready to go.
Right.
But this, the information that we, in theory, will get back will allow each jurisdiction to do continue with their own work. Like, say, our broadband consultant then gets that data set and is able to say, oh, I knew that the Eagle Point area doesn't have cell phone service, but I didn't know that these folks have outrageous expensive internet immediately adjacent. So, we can go that way. But for some of the counties, it'll do the kind of filling in little gaps here and there.
Okay.
And it'll be, like you noted with the Faster Internet Oregon, that's going to be a very specific set of data. We'll be
Mhm.
able to do more of a qualitative as well. Like, we don't have internet, we do have internet. Because somebody who doesn't do the faster internet, that it'll just be we won't know.
Mhm.
That person won't exist because they don't have it.
Right. And there's also something that they sent out, I believe, through the schools that I'm sure you got the emails about. In other words, if your child qualifies for free lunch,
Yeah.
then you would be able to get that stipend per month for addressing broadband
Mhm.
costs. I
Yeah,
think it's $30 a
it's
month.
$30. Yeah. And so that's what the group, this gathering has kind of set to as, that's the consideration is that's affordable then, right? And so if we start looking at internet service providers and kind of baseline service in that range, then that that could go a long way for a lot of residents of the county.
Mhm. Right. And I know Commissioner Pope has certainly gotten a jump on this years ago, working with Illyrica and getting a lot of that information out there. And so, yeah, they're a little bit ahead of us.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay.
And then I did talk very briefly, because I needed to get to my meeting with Ken and Christian with the hotel developers downtown, who are looking at the C-PACE, which is like commercial something program, which is really and I mentioned it last week, but it's really a program that a city or a county adopts in order to help businesses that want to do energy efficiency upgrades. It's only in Oregon and been adopted by Deschutes County and Multnomah County. And I don't know about cities, but I'm meeting with Abisha and then Patty Herzog to find out, does the city of McMinnville have an interest in adopting this? Because I was the only elected official on this particular introduction. Over there is something that they want to bring forward. Abisha talks to Economic Development Advisory Committee or bring something to us.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
Okay.
So
Initially, my initial thoughts on it were like, no, but I don't want to be totally closed to things.
Mhm.
So,
when you
Okay.
say we don't know if the cities participate, is that just as a pass through? They implement the program.
yeah, I guess the way that bare bones understanding of the way that it works is that a city or a county adopts a set of ordinances that basically they end up acting as the administrator of a program that private capital loans to a builder to install much more efficient appliances.
Okay.
And then the jurisdiction then manages a program where they pay back the loan through their property tax bill or through a local improvement district. And so then it's I think the advantage of it is that a local improvement district or the taxing authority puts a lien on the property. And so there's all these steps to it. And there were some things where I was like, oh, that's really interesting because it's designed to set it up so that the payback to the lender to the private capital matches the cost of the improvements. So you're investing in some kind of infrastructure, say heat pumps rather than window air conditioners. And then that reduced utility cost is what gets paid back. I need to find out more about it and see whether it even makes sense for a relatively small county, right? Or whether it makes more sense for something like a city.
And this is new construction.
It's both existing and new. So you could, at Hallward Terrace, right? They could set it up so that they do this investment through the county to install heat pumps for everybody. And then it would be paid back through the county.
Okay.
So even nonprofits can take advantage of it, is what I learned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And that's it for me. And
Okay.
thank you, Commissioner Stair, for being on top of the air
The
conditioning.
heat wave.
Well, it wasn't me. It was the folks who were knocking on doors and getting those units delivered. And it
Yeah.
was, sometimes government and quasi-government organizations aren't really effective. But when they are, and I've seen that in Yamhill County, it's pretty impressive.
Mhm.
And it's the people, the ones that are like Vicky and Charlene and folks at these organizations who are doing the work.
But it also helps when you have accurate information too. And I think that's, one of the
Absolutely.
things you were working on too, right?
So, thank you.
Okay, Christian, Ken, any updates or announcements? No? All right. There's nothing else for the good of the order. I will adjourn the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners formal and informal session for July 28th, 2022. It is 10:45.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.